Hey y'all, it's Ashley Bookishram and I'm back with another video. So by the time that this video goes up, I will have already begun my initiation phase into my hot girl summer. I'm just playing. I am probably already on vacation by the time that this video goes up. So yes, June reading plans. It's already June. We're halfway through 2021. This year is going by really, really fast. I don't know if that's anybody else or if it's just me, but it's been a really, really quick year. So what I'm gonna do here is, of course, y'all know when I say like reading plans, what I essentially mean is like, this is the stuff that I have my eye on, and this is the stuff that I'm kind of looking forward to. Does this necessarily mean that I'm gonna get to everything? Absolutely not, because we never know what's going to happen during a month. We can't really anticipate what's going to happen during a month. So I try to just kind of look at my shelves. I go through what I currently have checked out from the library, and I kind of see like, what am I leaning more towards? I have a lot of stuff currently checked out from the library, but it's still at the library because, you know, hey, I go there every day. Sometimes I take stuff home, sometimes I don't. It depends on how I am feeling. So we're gonna start with seeing like what I have on Libby, what I'm currently working through. I am not gonna go through my entire Libby list. I'm just gonna go through a couple of things that I am probably looking most forward to reading. So the first one that I have on here is Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala. And this is supposed to be kind of like a cozy mystery of sorts. It's about this woman who ends up going back home to help her aunt run a restaurant, and her ex somehow in the midst of all this ends up dead. So I actually have already started listening to this one. So far so good, but I'm only 6% in, so I don't know if that's really a clear indication of whether this is going to be good. I think for the most part, most people have pretty much enjoyed it. The next two that I'm looking at for my Libby app include Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I know that this has gotten a lot of buzz in the booktube community. I wanted to listen to the audio version of it, but I was waiting for my library to get it. They finally got it, so I got myself on the waiting list. It finally came through. I have a few weeks to listen to that one, and I believe that this one is actually about a musical group of sorts, and everybody has been saying that the best way to digest this one is to listen to it on audio. So I have that one up. I also have P. Djeli Clark's new book, Master of Jinn, and this one has been getting a lot of rave reviews as well. I originally had this checked out, and then I didn't realize Libby's weird, y'all. Sometimes I don't get notifications that things have come through on hold unless I open up the Libby app. So there are days when I'm not necessarily listening to Libby. I could be listening to another audio thing going on here, and you know, kind of disappear and go away. So I didn't even realize that I had gotten a Master of Jinn before, and now that I have it back, I really need to prioritize listening to that one. So I have a couple of more that are on here. I have Stacey Abrams' news books. I have Symbiosis, which is the second book by Nikki Drayden. If you remember, we did a live show. It was me, Harley, Erica, Bree, and Chloe talked about the first one in that book, and Escaping Exodus. I was like, I can't remember the name of the book, but it was Escaping Exodus. So we listened to that one, I listened to that one, but we read that one as a group and we did a live show about it, and I've been meaning to get to Symbiosis, and so I put the audio on hold in my library. I have two books that I'm currently listening to on Libro FM, One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, and then also Trouble Girls. So of course, June is Pride Month here in the States, so I also wanted to prioritize listening and reading a little bit more queer books. I, of course, as I always say, I feel like you should be reading these books all year long. This one month is just not the time, but it is a great time to highlight books with queer representation. So those are two from Libro FM that I am looking forward to reading. I don't have any audios checked out from Hoopla right now, and I do have some stuff. I know I was telling y'all that I use another app called Anyplay, and with Anyplay, I've mainly been listening to a lot of Christina C. Jones. So probably what I'm going to end up doing is continuing my binge of Christina C. Jones through Anyplay. I have been like reading a lot of her stuff. I didn't get to anything in May because May has been a very heavy comic book month for me. I don't think I was necessarily in a complete slump, but I think that was just more of where my vibe was for the month of May. So I didn't get to any of her stuff in the month of May, but I'm hoping that like April, I read like almost 10 of her books in April. I'm hoping that for the month of June, I can go back to reading more of her stuff. My goal, I think, is to get through her backlist by the end of the year, but she has a pretty extensive backlist, so we'll see if that's going to be a thing that's going to happen. Like, fingers crossed, I'm hoping that it happens, but we shall see. So those are the only things I think that I have kind of on my radar for audio. I do have some stuff from my own personal collection here that I want to get to, and then we'll go through briefly with the comics and the manga that I want to get to during the month. So the first book that I have here is More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. This is actually one that I have already read before and really enjoyed, but it's been a minute since I've read it. I actually think I read it when it first came out, so it's been years since I've read this book, and I don't really want to say what this one is about because the twist in this one is pretty interesting. It is about a 16-year-old boy who's struggling to find happiness, and there are some elements in here. It kind of has a slight dystopian feel to it because there's a memory altercation process that is a part of this society, but I don't really want to go further than that. But like I said, it's been a long time since I've read this. This is the only Adam Silvera book I think that I have ever read because I am not really super interested in his fantasy stuff, but this is the only contemporary one of his that I have picked up, and I'm hoping to enjoy it again the way that I enjoyed it the first time that I read it. The next one that I have here is Finding Junie Kim by Ellen O. This is one that I kind of talked about a little bit on my Instagram page. This is one that I'm really excited to read because of the fact that it deals with a young middle grade student kind of finding their voice in the face of racism. So of course it focuses on the character of Junie, who goes to school and there is some racist graffiti that she finds at school, and as a result of that, I believe it's her history teacher who assigns an oral history project, and she begins to interview her Korean grandparents and talks to them a little bit about their experience during the Korean War. And she learns more about them, and while she's doing this, the racism at school apparently seems to get more intense, and she, through discovering the background of her grandparents, starts to find her own voice. So I'm kind of a sucker, especially for like middle grade and children's books where kids are finding the courage and the strength to stand up for what they feel is right or stand up against bigotry and hatred. And this is definitely one of those books. So top of my radar, absolutely. I cannot wait to dive into this one. The next one that I have here is The Stars and the Blackness Between Them. This has been sitting on my TBR far too long. I've heard great things about this book. It focuses on two characters, Audrey and Mabel. So Audrey is coming from Trinidad, and she's being sent from Trinidad to America after her mother discovers her with her secret girlfriend, who happens to be the pastor's daughter, I believe. So she comes to Minneapolis and she meets Mabel. Mabel's been having kind of struggles of her own, I think, in terms of her sexuality, and it also seems to hint slightly at a possible illness. I'm not sure if that's what's going to happen or not, but the two of them are in a relationship, and I think it's about a journey in dealing with whatever is plaguing Mabel, and then also them trying to navigate their relationship being young black queer women. So like I said, I've heard great things about this one. Why it's taking me so long to pick it up, I have absolutely no idea. The next one that I have here is Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn, and this one is about a character by the name of Alice who has a girlfriend, and then they break up because Alice realizes that she is asexual, and then she ends up meeting another individual by the name of Takumi, and they become really close. He becomes her knight in shining armor, and I think that this one does a lot of exploration of what it's like to be ace and how society views ace individuals. I am definitely interested in reading this one. If you did not know, I did read the nonfiction book called Ace, and it was such an eye-opening book for me personally and about learning more about asexuality. So I'm interested in how this is going to play out, what the author is going to do in terms of Alice coming to grips with her own identity and what that means. So I've heard a couple people talk about this one in BookTube, not so much, but once again, one that I'm definitely looking forward to reading. The next one that I have here is Darius the Great Is Not Okay, and this one is about a young boy who is half Persian, and he makes a trip to Iran, and when he's there he has, I think he has clinical depression, of course, prior to him getting there, but he's trying to cope and explain what clinical depression is to his grandparents, and it's kind of difficult. Then he ends up meeting this boy, and I can only assume that through their relationship it grows into something that's more romantic. I have heard a lot of great things about Darius the Great. It's Not Okay. The second book, of course, is already out, but I still have not read this first one. I am anticipating really enjoying this. It looks like it has potential to be a really quick read. A couple of these look like they have potential to be a really quick read, but this is definitely one that I need to get to because I just have not read it yet. The next one that I have here is Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry. This one is about a main character, and her name is Quinn, and she keeps a list of everything, and in keeping these lists she writes down just, I mean, random things, boys she would like to kiss, her deepest fears, and then eventually her journal or notebook is stolen and her lists get posted anonymously on an Instagram page. So what she does is she teams up with another guy by the name of Carter, and Carter assists her in attempting to find out who is blackmailing her, or who's, you know, who has her journal. And I think that, of course, there's potential romance to ensue from this. Really excited for this. I think it's super important to see black love within YA lit as well. I know I talk a lot about black love in terms of like adult romance, but it's also important for it to have representation in YA contemporary romances as well. And the last books that I have here are going to be two fantasy books that I actually just recently talked about in the video that went up before this, and that's going to be Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. Remember that Bethany and I from Beautifully Bookish Bethany are going to be reading this month. I can't remember whether we chose the date or not for this yet. I don't think we did, but yeah, be on the lookout for that. We'll definitely share it. We'll be having a live show discussion about the Assassin's Apprentice. Of course, this is the first book in the Farseer trilogy. And then another book that I talked about in that same video was The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This is one that I probably, by the time this goes up, will have already started. However, it's not one that I anticipate finishing by the end of May. So it's going to go ahead and sift over into the month of June. Okay, so as you all know, with my comics and my graphic novels and manga, I don't really go into a deep explanation of what everything is about because it just would be an excessive amount of time. I usually reserve that simply for the books, but I do have some manga that I just recently checked out from the library that I'm really interested in reading. I have Way of the House Husband volumes 3 and 4. So I've read volumes 1 and 2. I just did not purchase them, but I wanted to continue the series before, like, I completely forgot about it. This is definitely a super simplistic series. It is about this guy who used to be part of some kind of, I don't want to say gang affiliation, but it almost feels like it is gang. He was a member of the Yakuza, which I don't know if that's technically gang, but it definitely does have that feel to it. And now he is a married man and he is a house husband. So this really just is about the random things that he does while he's being a house husband. It's an interesting series, but I definitely wanted to continue it. I also got Shortcake Cake, and this is volume 1. This is about a young girl who lives 2 hours away from her school, and instead of continuing the commute, she decides that she wants to live in this boarding house, and I think that there's going to be some romantic elements involved in this. I read like the first maybe 20 pages of this one, and I'm really enjoying it, but I thought I would definitely add it to this list. The next one that I have here is Daytime Shooting Star, and this is about a young girl who ends up moving to Tokyo, and when she moves to Tokyo, she passes out in a park because she sees a shooting star during the day, and I think she gets caught in between two people. There is the guy that helps her when she passes out and takes her to where she's supposed to go, which I believe is her uncle's house, and then there is a guy that she meets in her class. So this is going to be interesting. I think I've seen Shae talk about this one quite a bit. I think that she enjoyed this. Shae reads so much manga, I can't remember, but I know that I heard about Shortcake Cake and Daytime Shooting Star from her channel specifically. And the last manga that I have on here is How Do We Relationship. This is about a young woman who's shy and she is having a hard time finding someone to date, specifically because she's interested in dating other women, and then her classmates suggest that they just kind of, you know, see where things go, because they both really don't have any other options. At first it seems like they're not going to really get along because they have different personalities, but eventually they do, and now they're wondering whether this is going to turn into a long-term type of relationship. So I have heard a couple people talk about this one, but I'm interested in reading it. I also lied, y'all. I said that I didn't have any other manga, but I forgot I have been reading some manga digitally, and one series that I want to continue with that I started and have been really enjoying is Sweat and Soap. I want to make sure, yeah, it's Sweat and Soap. It is so cute. So I read volume 1 in the month of May, loved it, absolutely loved it. I see what everyone has been raving about. It is the cutest thing in the world. Cannot wait to continue that series. And then also I want to continue Your Lie in April. I think I am up to volume 6 of Your Lie in April, and I've been reading that one digitally. So good. It was meant for me. I feel like this manga was specifically written for me. It definitely has such a musical element to it. I think it's going to be heartbreaking. I've heard the anime is really, really sad. I can see that the manga is definitely going to be sad, but I always have been saying when I talk about this, I am a classically trained pianist, so this manga has been holding a special place in my heart. So I can't wait to continue to read that. Hopefully I can finish Your Lie in April by the end of June. And of course I have some single issues that I want to read. I'm just going to show you these really briefly, and there's going to be more than this, but in the time that I'm recording this, I have not had the opportunity to pick up my week's picks, so these are the only ones I have, which is The Next Batman Second Son issue number 2, Silver Coin issue number 2, Witch Blood issue number 1, Perion and the Imperial Guard issue number 1, Heroes Reborn issue number 1, The Flash issue 770, Batman and Scooby-Doo Adventures issue number 2, Sensational Wonder Woman issue number 3, Robin issue number 1, Flash 769. I'm still not caught up with Flash. I haven't caught up. The Marvels issue number 1, still not caught up with Teen Titans Academy, still haven't read issue number 1. And then Radiant Black issue number 3. So those are, and that's probably not all the single issues. I just have not had time to sit down and read my single issues the way that I want to. I've been reading single issues for the podcast that I'm a part of, but I haven't been able to read like those single issues that I have on my pull list and stuff that I find when I go into my comic shop. So hopefully I will be caught up on those. I may take some time during my vacation to sit in peace and quiet and just read. Like, who goes on vacation to read? I do. I absolutely do. I do have some trades here that I want to get to, specifically Shang-Chi. This is the first volume by Jin Lin Yang, and they started a new numbering of Shang-Chi, but it's weird because the new numbering is technically the sequel to this. So I already got issue number 1 of Shang-Chi, but I haven't read this one yet, so I wanted to read this first before I picked up issue number 1 of Shang-Chi. I have Killmonger, which of course is part of the Black Panther kind of universe, and this one of course specifically focuses on Killmonger. I know some people enjoy this, some people not so much, but it is one that I am specifically looking forward to reading because my knowledge of Killmonger really only comes from Black Panther, like the movie adaptation, and he's a very, very complex character, definitely morally gray, more so than people give him credit for. He's not the bad guy. You know that some people look at Killmonger as being the villain, but if you know your history, I promise you, he's not really a villain. He just has a different perspective on the way in which Black people should operate amongst themselves and how they should operate on the global stage. So I'm interested to see what that writer is going to do with that story. And then I wanted to start reading Sandman. So this is volume 1. This is Neil Gaiman's Sandman Preludes and Nocturnes, highly acclaimed. This is the 30th anniversary edition. I can't remember whether this won the Eisner or not, but I am excited because this is expanding. I think that Sandman is also having a crossover with Lock and Key. If you didn't know, Lock and Key by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez, one of my favorite comic book series of all time. I know that they're having this crossover between Sandman. I don't think you have to have read Sandman to read that, but I think that it's one of those things that when you read everything, you kind of get those Easter eggs and it ends up being really, really nice. So this is not as thick as I thought it was going to be. The art style is definitely a little bit older, but still think it's going to be something that's enjoyable. All right, y'all, so that's it. Those are my June reading plans. Let me know in the comment box below what you plan on reading for the month of June. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Want to see more content, make sure you click the subscribe button, hit that bell for notification. As well, if you want to find me on social media or support the channel, all the links will be down in the description box below, and I'll be back with another video soon.